Hey there and welcome. Today we're going to zoom way in on a world that's all around us and even inside us, but is almost completely invisible. We're diving deep into the massive, powerful, and often misunderstood world of microorganisms, our planet's ultimate friends and foes. Okay, let's start with something you've probably seen 1,000 times. You leave a loaf of bread on the counter for a little too long, and when you come back, you see these fuzzy, kind of grayish-white patches taking over. So what's really going on there? Well, you're not just looking at some spoiled bread. You're actually staring at a thriving colony, a whole bustling city of tiny living things. And that simple little patch of mold, that's our ticket into the incredible hidden world of microbes. All right, so let's properly introduce the main characters in our story today. Who are they, and what really makes them tick? So the official term is microorganism, but you can just call them microbes. And the definition is pretty straightforward. They're living things that are just too small to be seen with the naked eye. But don't let that small size fool you. They're found everywhere, from freezing cold ice caps to boiling hot springs, and they are, by far, the most common organisms on Earth. Scientists basically break these tiny life forms down into 5 major groups. You've got bacteria, protozoa, fungi, algae, and then the really mysterious ones, viruses. Let's do a quick meet and greet with each. First up, bacteria. These guys are the real old-timers of planet Earth. They were some of the very first life forms to ever show up. They're single-cell powerhouses, and they come in all sorts of cool shapes. You've got rods, spheres, and even little spirals. Next, we have protozoa. The name literally means little animal, which is just perfect, because that's what they do. They act like tiny predators, hunting down and eating other microbes. You've probably heard of the amoeba, right? The one that's always changing its shape to gobble up its next meal? Now, on to fungi. This group is pretty diverse. It includes everything from the yeast that makes our bread nice and fluffy to that mold we saw earlier. So what's their deal? Well, they're nature's ultimate cleanup crew. They break down dead stuff and recycle all those crucial nutrients back into the ecosystem. Let's talk about algae. I like to think of these as the unsung heroes of our atmosphere. Just like plants, they've got chlorophyll and they do photosynthesis. What that means for us is that they pump out a huge amount of the oxygen we all breathe. And they come in all sizes, from tiny single cells to giant seaweeds. And finally, we get to viruses, biology's greatest puzzle. See, on their own, they're completely lifeless, no more alive than a grain of salt. But the second they get inside a living cell, a host, they spring into action, hijacking the cell's machinery to make more of themselves. So, are they alive? Are they not? Honestly, it's a debate that's still going on today. Okay, so we've met the whole crew, but here's the thing. For most of human history, our relationship with this invisible world has been filled with fear. We've really only known them as the bad guys, the invisible enemy. And the reason for all that fear? Well, it has a name: pathogens. A pathogen is really just any microbe that, unfortunately, has the ability to cause disease. They're the foe in our story of friend and foe. And this threat really comes from all sides. You've got bacteria that can cause tuberculosis, a protozoan is what's behind malaria, the common colds that we all get, yep, that's a virus, and that annoying ringworm, that's actually a fungus. Every single one of these groups has members on the foe list. And get this, it's not always the microbe acting alone. A lot of the time, they need a ride. Insects like mosquitoes and houseflies act like little taxis for them, picking up pathogens from somewhere that's infected and then delivering them right to a healthy person. It's a super effective way for them to spread disease. But focusing only on the bad stuff they do, well, that's like reading just one chapter of an amazing book and then closing it. It's time to flip the script and meet our tiniest but maybe most powerful allies. What if that's not the whole story? What if the very same microbes we've learned to fear are actually the reason we can eat, create life-saving medicine, and even have a planet that can support life in the first place? To really get a sense of their power, you have to think about the incredible scale we're talking about. Look at this number: 40 million. That's not the population of a small country. That's the approximate number of bacteria you can find in a single gram of healthy soil. It's just a mind-boggling number, and it hints at the massive amount of work they must be doing. So how does this help us in our day-to-day lives? Well, let's start with something delicious: fermentation. This is pure microbial magic. You just add microbes, like yeast, to sugar. The yeast gets to work. eating the sugar and turning it into alcohol and carbon dioxide gas. And that single process, that's what gives us the fluffy texture of bread, the sharp tang of cheese, and yep, the bubbles in beer and wine. And their helpfulness goes way beyond the kitchen. In the world of medicine, they're basically superheroes. Remember Alexander Fleming? He noticed that a mold, a fungus, was killing bacteria around it. And from that, we got penicillin, the very first antibiotic. In vaccines, we take the very germs that make us sick, we weaken or kill them, and then we use them to train our bodies to fight back. It's incredible, right? We are literally using microbes to fight other microbes. So this brings us to a really interesting paradox. Some microbes spoil our food, while other microbes help us create it. And that has led to this amazing history of human cleverness as we figured out how to control the bad ones while harnessing the power of the good ones. So what was our strategy? Basically, we just figured out what microbes hate. They don't like the cold, so boom, we invented refrigeration. They can't handle intense heat, which gave us pasteurization for things like milk. And they can't grow in super salty or sugary places, which is why we have pickles and jams. By understanding our enemy, we learned to win the food fight. Okay, so controlling them and using them is one thing, but the real takeaway here is, well, it's way, way deeper than that. The truth is, we don't just live with them. We absolutely, positively cannot live without them. Just take the nitrogen cycle, for example. You know, the air we breathe, it's almost 80% nitrogen. But here's the catch. For the most part, plants and animals can't use it in that form. That's where bacteria come in and do something amazing. They fix it. They literally grab it out of the air and change it into a form that plants can soak up. From there, it moves up the food chain to animals. Without these specific bacteria doing their job, the entire food web on Earth would just collapse. Seriously. So we come all the way back to our original question. Are microbes friend or are they foe? And it turns out the answer is both and neither. They're a fundamental force of this planet, like gravity or sunlight. They're not on our side, and they're not against us. They are, simply and profoundly, the very foundation of life itself.